The crew lounge of the battleship Harmony's Edge was always noisy during mealtime. Different alien voices mixed together as soldiers from many worlds ate their food and talked. The air smelled like a mix of strange foods in the metal walls of the ship. Kyung-ho sat at a small table in the corner, eating his simple human meal. He was a communications officer, and his job was to make sure messages got to the right people during battles. He was not very tall, and his skin was the pale color that many aliens called soft skin. His dark hair was cut short, and he wore the standard coalition uniform that all soldiers wore. At the table next to him sat Ji-woo and So-young. Ji-woo was an engineer who fixed things when they broke. She was young and had quick hands that could work with any machine. So-young was a medical officer who helped injured soldiers. She had kind eyes but could be very serious when someone was hurt. The three humans tried to eat in peace, but it was getting harder to ignore the loud voices from across the room. A group of Valtaran warriors sat at a big table, and they were talking louder and louder. The Valtarans looked like giant lizards that walked on two legs. They had thick scales instead of skin, and their scales were hard like armor. They were much taller than humans and much stronger too. Commander Veltar was the leader of the Valtaran group. His scales were dark green with old scars from many battles. He had fought in wars for 50 years, and everyone knew he was a dangerous fighter. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Look at those soft skins over there," Veltar said, pointing at the human table with one of his clawed fingers. "They look so weak and small. How can they call themselves soldiers?" The other Valtarans laughed. Their laughter sounded like hissing snakes. Sub-Commander Rixtol, who was younger but still covered in battle scars, nodded his head. "I have seen them in fights," he said. "When the shooting starts, they hide behind us real warriors. They are too scared to fight properly." Kyung-ho felt his hands get tight, but he kept eating. He had heard these words many times before. So-young looked angry, and her face turned red. Ji-woo stopped eating and stared at her food. "Their bones break so easily," another Valtaran said, "and they have no claws, no natural armor, no poison. What good are they in a real battle? They think their little machines and computers make them strong," Veltar continued. "But when you face an enemy who wants to kill you, only real strength matters. Only warriors like us can win wars." The Valtarans got louder and more cruel with their words. They told stories about times when they thought humans had run away from fights. They laughed about how humans needed special equipment just to breathe on some planets. They made jokes about human skin being so thin that it would tear like paper. More aliens joined the conversation. There were Chronics who looked like walking rocks with 4 arms each. They were even stronger than Valtarans. There were Hegemonians who had bodies made of crystal and could think very fast. All of them had something bad to say about humans. "I heard that humans cry when they get hurt," said a Chronic warrior. "Real soldiers do not cry." "They need so much sleep too," added a Hegemonian. 8 hours every day. We only need 2 hours of rest." "And they eat so much food," laughed another Valtaran. "They are always hungry like babies." Kyung-ho finished his meal slowly. He could feel many eyes watching the human table. Some aliens looked sorry for them, but most just seemed to agree with the Valtarans. In the coalition military, strength was everything. The strongest aliens got the best jobs and the most respect. Humans were seen as the weakest race. So-young started to stand up, her face very angry, but Kyung-ho put his hand on her arm. "Not now," he said quietly. "Not here." "But they are lying about us," So-young whispered back. "We have fought in many battles. We have saved lives. We are not cowards." "I know," Kyung-ho said, "but fighting with words here will not help anything." Ji-woo nodded. "He is right. Let them talk. Words cannot hurt us, but the words did hurt." Every human in the coalition had heard these things before. They were always given the easy jobs during battles. They were told to stay in the back and let the real warriors do the fighting. When they asked for better weapons or more dangerous missions, they were told no. The Valtarans kept talking and laughing. Commander Veltar stood up and made his voice even louder. "I think humans should just stay on their home planet," he said. "Space is too dangerous for such weak creatures. They should grow food and make things while we fight the wars." Many aliens in the room laughed at this. Some clapped their hands or made other sounds of agreement. The human table became very quiet. Kyung-ho, So-young, and Ji-woo finished eating and stood up to leave. As they walked past the Valtaran table, Commander Veltar spoke directly to them. "Running away again, softskins?" he said with a mean smile. "This is what you do best." Kyung-ho stopped walking and looked at the Valtaran commander. For a moment their eyes met. Kyung-ho did not look angry or scared. He looked calm, like he was thinking about something important. "We are not running," Kyung-ho said quietly. "We are just finished eating." "Of course you are," Veltar laughed. "Humans are always finished when things get difficult." The three humans left the lounge without saying anything else. Behind them, the alien laughter continued. As they walked through the ship's corridors, none of them spoke. They had all heard these insults many times, but it never got easier. They knew they were good soldiers, but nobody else seemed to see it. Just as they reached their quarters, an alarm started ringing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on the walls, and a voice came over the ship's communication system. "All personnel report to battle stations immediately. Large enemy fleet detected approaching Coalition supply depot. This is not a drill. All ships prepare for combat operations." The three humans looked at each other. Finally, they would have a chance to show what they could really do. But first, they had to survive what was coming. Kyung-ho spoke first. "I guess we will see who the real warriors are." The alarm kept ringing as soldiers all over the ship ran to their positions. The biggest battle in years was about to begin, and everyone would be tested. The aliens who had spent so much time laughing at humans were about to learn something new about the species they had underestimated. But none of them knew that yet. They were all still thinking about the old ways of fighting, the old ideas about strength and weakness. The coming battle would change everything they thought they knew about war and about the humans who fought beside them. The first explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks. Through the bridge windows of Harmony's Edge, everyone could see Coalition ships fighting against the dark shapes of Devourer vessels. But something was going very wrong. Admiral Zorketh's 4 crystal arms moved frantically across his control panels as bad news came in from all directions. His usually calm voice now sounded worried and confused. "Battleship Thunder's might is taking heavy damage," shouted a Chronic communications officer. "They are requesting immediate support." "Send the 5th Squadron to assist," Admiral Zorketh ordered. But before the ships could move, another message came through. "Admiral Thunder's might is gone. The ship just exploded." On the tactical display, a large dot representing the Coalition battleship disappeared. Thunder's might had been one of their strongest ships with the best weapons and armor. It should have been able to fight for hours, but the Devourers had destroyed it in less than 10 minutes. Commander Veltar's voice crackled through the communication system from his assault mech. He sounded angry and confused. "Admiral, these enemies fight like nothing we have ever seen. They learn from every attack we make." "What do you mean they learn?" Admiral Zorketh asked. "Every time we use a tactic, it works once, then never again. They adapt to our weapons, our formations, everything. It is like fighting an enemy that becomes smarter every second." The Devourer ships moved through space in ways that normal vessels could not. They twisted and changed shape during battle, growing new weapons and armor as they needed them. When Coalition forces fired plasma cannons at them, the Devourers quickly developed shields that could block plasma. When Coalition ships tried to surround them, the Devourers split into smaller groups that were harder to hit. In the communication center, Kyung-ho listened to dozens of radio channels at once. He could hear the panic in alien voices as their plans failed one after another. The Valterans were brave fighters, but their strength meant nothing when enemies could predict their every move. The Chronics had powerful weapons, but the Devourers simply adapted to become immune to those weapons. "They are using our own predictability against us," Kyung-ho said quietly to Jiwoo, who was monitoring ship systems. "The aliens fight the same way they always fight, so the Devourers can learn their patterns." Jiwoo nodded as she watched her computer screens. "Look at this data. Every Coalition species has standard military procedures that they follow exactly. The Devourers are reading those procedures like a book." Another explosion shook Harmony's Edge as enemy fire hit their shields. The lights flickered, and several alien officers looked scared. This was not how battles were supposed to go. The Coalition had always won through superior strength and firepower, but now those advantages were useless. "Cruiser Star's Edge is reporting engine failure," called out another officer. "Destroyer Windsblade has lost all weapons." Admiral Zorketh tried to coordinate the fleet, but his orders came too late. By the time Coalition ships received new instructions, the Devourers had already adapted to counter whatever strategy he planned. In the medical bay, So-Young prepared for wounded soldiers who would soon be brought in, but she also watched the tactical displays and saw something that the alien commanders were missing. The Devourers were not just adapting to individual ship tactics. They were learning how the entire coalition command structure worked. They are targeting our communication patterns, she said to herself. They know that orders come from the top down, so they can predict what we will do by watching how information flows through our fleet. The battle was turning into a disaster. 3 more coalition ships exploded in bright flashes. Others were damaged and retreating. The Devourer fleet seemed to grow stronger with every passing minute. On the bridge, alien officers started to panic. A Hegemonian tactical officer's crystal body was flashing red with stress. A Valteran weapons specialist was roaring in frustration as his shots missed their targets. "Admiral," said Commander Veltar through the radio, "we need to retreat. We cannot win this battle." "Negative," Admiral Zorketh replied. "We must protect the supply depot. Retreat is not an option." But retreat was starting to look like the only choice. The coalition fleet was being destroyed piece by piece, and traditional military tactics were not working. Then something unexpected happened. Admiral Zorketh suddenly stopped moving. His crystal body went dark and he fell forward onto his control panel. An energy blast from a Devourer ship had overloaded the bridge systems, and the electrical surge had knocked out the Admiral's crystalline nervous system. "Medical team to the bridge," someone shouted. "The Admiral is down." Chaos spread through the bridge as officers tried to figure out what to do without their commander. The coalition fleet was falling apart, with ships breaking formation and retreating in different directions. Each species started trying to protect their own vessels instead of working together. In the communication center, Kyung-ho received a priority message on a channel that most aliens did not know existed. The message came from Captain Minsu, and it contained only 3 words. "Protocol Omega active." Kyung-ho looked at Jiwoo and nodded. She immediately began typing commands into her computer that would have surprised any alien who could see them. All over the ship, human personnel received the same message and began doing things that they had never been ordered to do. So Young left her medical station and headed for the weapons locker. Dae-hyun stopped following orders from his Valteran supervisor and started accessing weapon systems with codes that should not have existed. Haijin began connecting to tactical computers throughout the fleet using passwords that no alien commander had ever seen. "What are you doing?" asked a confused chronic officer as he watched Haijin work at a computer terminal. "My job," Haijin replied calmly. Not looking up from her screen, the alien officer reached out to stop her, but Young-sik appeared beside him. The human explosives expert was carrying equipment that the chronic had never seen before. "I would not do that if I were you," Young-sik said quietly. The chronic officer decided to step back. All across the coalition fleet, human soldiers were suddenly acting very differently. They stopped taking orders from alien commanders. They accessed systems that aliens thought were secure. They began coordinating with each other using communication networks that bypassed the official command structure. Captain Minsu walked onto the bridge of Harmony's Edge, where panicked alien officers were trying to coordinate a retreat. His voice was calm and confident as he spoke. "All ships, this is Human Command Override. I am assuming fleet coordination under Emergency Protocol 7. New tactical directives are being transmitted now." The alien officers stared at him in shock. "Human Command Override? Emergency Protocol 7? These were not things that existed in coalition military procedures." "Captain Minsu," said the Hegemonian tactical officer, "you do not have authority to command the fleet. You are only a human captain." Captain Minsu looked at the officer with calm eyes. "Check your computer, Lieutenant. You will find that I have exactly the authority I need." The officer checked his computer screen and his crystal face went pale. According to the system, Captain Minsu had been granted full fleet command authority by Admiral Zorketh himself, with a timestamp from 6 months ago. But that was impossible. Admiral Zorketh would never give a human that kind of power, unless he had done it without knowing what he was really signing. The aliens on the bridge were about to discover that humans had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. And they were about to learn what happened when the weakest species in the coalition finally stopped playing by everyone else's rules. Outside, the Devourer fleet was still winning. But that was about to change in ways that no one could have predicted. The command deck of Harmony's Edge was full of activity as officers prepared for battle. Admiral Zorketh stood in the center, his 4 crystalline arms moving quickly across different control panels. He was a hegemonian, and his body looked like it was made of blue crystal that caught the light from the ship's computers. His mind could process information much faster than most other species. Captain Minsu walked onto the command deck with several other human officers. He was the highest-ranking human on the ship, but that did not mean much in the coalition military. Even as a captain, he was often treated like he was less important than alien lieutenants. "Admiral," Captain Minsu said, walking up to the command station, "I would like to request combat assignments for my human personnel. We have trained soldiers ready to fight." Admiral Zorketh looked down at the human captain. Even though they were about the same height, the Admiral's crystal body made him seem much more impressive. His glowing eyes showed no emotion. "Captain Minsu," the Admiral said in his mechanical-sounding voice, "humans will be assigned to support roles as usual: communications, medical support, and supply coordination. Leave the actual fighting to species that are built for combat." "Sir, with respect, my people have fought in 12 major campaigns," Captain Minsu replied. "We have proven ourselves many times. We deserve to be in the front lines with our allies." The Admiral's crystal face did not change. "Your people are useful in their own way, Captain, but this battle will be extremely dangerous. We cannot risk having weak soldiers in important positions." Other alien officers on the command deck nodded in agreement. They had all heard the same things about humans for years. Weak bones, soft skin, no natural weapons, too emotional, too slow to heal. It was just accepted fact that humans were not real fighters. Captain Minsu felt angry, but he kept his voice calm. "What if we prove you wrong, Admiral?" "That will not happen, Captain," Admiral Zorketh said, turning back to his control panels. "Dismissed." Captain Minsu saluted and left the command deck. His human officers followed him down to the lower levels of the ship, where human quarters were located. These rooms were smaller and less comfortable than where the alien officers lived. In the human section, soldiers were getting ready for battle. Dae-Hyun was checking weapons in the armory. He was a weapons specialist who knew everything about guns, explosives, and military equipment. He was looking at the basic energy rifles that humans had been given, while alien soldiers got much better weapons. "Look at this junk," Dae-Hyun said to Hee-Jin, who was studying battle plans on her computer tablet. "They give the Valterans plasma cannons and assault mechs, and we get these old rifles that barely work." Hee-Jin was a tactical analyst. Her job was to study enemy movements and plan attacks. She was very smart and could see patterns that others missed, but alien commanders rarely asked for her advice. "It does not matter what weapons they give us," Hee-Jin said quietly. "We will make do with what we have." Young-Sik looked up from where he was organizing demolition equipment. He was an explosives expert who could make bombs out of almost anything. "Maybe it is time they learned what humans can really do," he said with a serious expression. In the medical bay, So-Young was preparing supplies for treating wounded soldiers. She had studied alien biology for years and knew how to heal injuries for many different species. But she was only expected to help with small wounds while alien doctors handled the serious cases. Ji-Woo was in the engineering section, working on ship systems that kept everything running. She could fix any machine and often made improvements that worked better than the original design. But alien engineers never asked for her ideas about how to make things better. All around the ship, human soldiers were being given the same types of jobs they always got. They would monitor communications while aliens made the important decisions. They would carry supplies while aliens did the fighting. They would fix equipment while aliens got the glory of victory. Captain Minsu gathered all the human personnel in their main meeting room. There were about 50 humans on the ship, which was a small number compared to the hundreds of alien soldiers. But these 50 humans had something that their alien crewmates did not understand. "You all know what happened on the command deck," Captain Minsu said. "Once again, we are being pushed to the back while others fight our battles for us." The humans in the room looked angry but not surprised. This had happened many times before. "Sir," said Kyung-ho, "what if this battle is different? What if they need us to do more than just support work?" Captain Minsu smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Then we will be ready, Communications Officer Kyung-ho. We will be very ready." Hee-Jin raised her hand. "Captain, I have been studying the enemy fleet. These devourers are not like anything the Coalition has fought before. Their ships change and adapt during battle. Standard alien tactics will not work against them." "Have you told this to Admiral Zorketh?" Captain Minsu asked. "I tried, sir. He said that hegemonian tactical computers are superior to human analysis. He did not want to hear my report. Young Six spoke up from the back of the room. They think we are too weak to fight, but they also think we are too stupid to think. They are wrong about both things. The captain walked to the front of the room and looked at each human soldier. Listen carefully, all of you. We have spent years in this coalition, being treated like children. We have been patient. We have been polite. We have followed orders even when those orders made no sense. The room became very quiet as everyone listened. But we have also been preparing, Captain Minsu continued. Every battle we were kept out of, we studied. Every time they gave us basic equipment, we learned how to make it better. Every time they treated us like we were stupid, we gathered more information. Dae-hyun nodded. We know more about coalition weapons and ships than most of the aliens who use them. And we know more about our enemies too, added Hyejin, because we had time to watch and learn while others were busy fighting. Captain Minsu walked to a locked cabinet and opened it with a special code. Inside were data tablets and equipment that the other humans had never seen before. We have been planning for a day like this, he said. A day when the coalition's usual tactics would fail. A day when they would need something different to survive. So Young looked confused. Captain, what are you saying? I am saying that we are not just support personnel, Captain Minsu replied. We are not just the weak humans who hide behind stronger allies. We are something else entirely, and today everyone is going to find out what that is. The captain gave specific data tablets to different officers. Each tablet had detailed information about ship systems, enemy weaknesses, and tactical plans that no alien commander had ever seen. Study these quickly, he ordered. When this battle starts going wrong, and it will go wrong, we need to be ready to take control. Kyung-ho looked at his tablet and saw communication codes and override protocols he had never known existed. Sir, how long have you been planning this? Since the day we joined the coalition, Captain Minsu answered. We knew that eventually there would come a time when patience and preparation would matter more than strength and speed. That time is today. Outside the ship, long-range sensors were detecting more and more enemy ships. The Devourer fleet was massive, with thousands of biomechanical vessels that looked like they were part machine and part living creature. They moved in ways that no normal ship could move, and they seemed to think as one giant mind. Admiral Zorketh was becoming worried as more reports came in. The enemy fleet was much larger than expected, and their ships had new abilities that coalition forces had never seen before. But in the human section of Harmony's Edge, 50 soldiers were preparing for something that no one else could imagine. They had been underestimated for so long that everyone had forgotten to watch what they were actually doing. The battle was about to begin, and the aliens who had laughed at human weakness were about to discover what human patience and planning could accomplish. But first, everything had to go very wrong. What happened next made every alien in the coalition fleet question everything they thought they knew about humans and about war itself. Captain Minsu stood calmly at the center of the bridge while alien officers watched in shock. His voice came through the communication system to every ship in the fleet, and his tone was completely different from the panicked voices they had been hearing. All vessels, this is human command override. You will now receive new tactical instructions. Follow them exactly, or you will not survive the next hour. On the tactical display, the Devourer fleet was still destroying coalition ships, but the humans were about to show their allies something that would change everything. Yejin had connected her computer to the main tactical network, and now she was revealing information that no alien commander had ever seen. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as data appeared on screens throughout the fleet. Attention all ships, Hyejin announced. I am transmitting complete Devourer behavioral analysis. We have been studying these enemies for 3 years, not 3 hours. The alien officers on the bridge stared at her in confusion. 3 years? Asked the Hegemonian tactical officer. But we only discovered the Devourers 6 months ago. No, Hyejin replied calmly. You only discovered them 6 months ago. We have been tracking their activities much longer than that. Every time you thought human forces retreated from battle, we were actually gathering intelligence on enemy tactics and capabilities. Captain Minsu walked to the main tactical display and pointed at the Devourer formations. You see adaptation. We see predictable learning patterns. You see unstoppable enemies. We see opponents who have never faced truly creative tactics. Across the fleet, human soldiers were doing things that amazed their alien crewmates. Dae-hyun was not just using the weapons he had been given. He was rapidly modifying coalition technology in ways that its original designers had never imagined. "How are you changing our plasma cannons?" asked a Valtran weapons officer as he watched Dae-hyun work. "Your plasma cannons were designed by engineers who think in straight lines," Dae-hyun replied as he rewired circuits. "Humans think in circles, spirals, and directions that do not exist yet." The weapons he was creating fired energy in patterns that no enemy had ever seen. Instead of simple straight beams, the modified cannons shot plasma that curved, split, and regrouped in flight. The Devourers had learned to defend against predictable weapon patterns, but they had never encountered anything like this. Ji-woo was connecting ship systems in ways that made alien engineers nervous. She was linking navigation computers to weapon systems, connecting life support to shields, and creating networks between ships that should not have been possible. "You are violating basic safety protocols," worried a Chronic. "Engineer, safety protocols are for species that fight the same wars over and over," Ji-woo replied. "We are fighting a war that has never been fought before." The ship network she created allowed coalition vessels to coordinate in ways that seemed impossible. Ships could share power, weapons, and tactical information instantly. When one vessel was damaged, others could supplement its capabilities immediately. Young-sik was doing something even more impressive. He was turning supply ships into mobile weapon platforms using improvised explosives and mining equipment. But these were not random bombs. Each explosive was carefully designed to work with the others in complex patterns. "Supply ship Terra's Gift, you are now armed Platform 7, Young-sik announced over the radio. "Prepare to execute Swarm Protocol Delta." "Armed platform?" asked the confused captain of Terra's Gift. "We are a supply ship. We carry food and medical equipment. You carry materials that can be converted into weapons," Young-sik corrected. "And you are about to learn how humans think about logistics during warfare." But the most shocking revelation came from So Young in the medical bay. She was not just preparing to treat wounded soldiers. She was coordinating a psychological warfare campaign that used human understanding of fear and adaptation. "All medical personnel, begin transmitting stress pattern alpha on frequency 774, So Young ordered. "Target enemy biomechanical systems." The aliens did not understand what she was doing until they saw the results. The signal she was broadcasting was designed to interfere with the biological parts of Devourer ships. It created confusion in their adaptation systems and made them respond more slowly to coalition attacks. "How did you know that would work?" asked an amazed Hegemonian medical officer. "Because we spent 3 years studying how biological and mechanical systems interact under stress," So Young replied. "While you were busy winning battles, we were learning how to win wars." Kyung-ho revealed the most shocking truth from the communications center. He was not just monitoring radio channels. He was controlling information flow throughout the entire fleet in ways that made alien commanders irrelevant. "All ships, ignore previous command protocols," Kyung-ho announced. "Human tactical network is now primary. Command structure has been optimized for non-predictable response patterns." "What does that mean?" asked a confused Valtran officer. "It means we are no longer fighting like you expect us to fight," Kyung-ho explained. "And if we cannot predict our own tactics, then neither can the enemy." The change in the battle was immediate and dramatic. Devourer ships that had been easily destroying coalition forces suddenly found themselves facing attacks they could not understand or counter. Human-modified weapons hit targets in ways that seemed impossible. Human-coordinated ship formations moved in patterns that violated everything aliens knew about space combat. Human tactical planning created situations where the Devourer's ability to adapt became a weakness instead of a strength. Commander Veltar, still fighting in his assault mech, watched in amazement as human strategies began to work. "How are they doing this?" he asked over the radio. "How are they making the impossible look easy?" Captain Minsu answered him from the bridge of Harmony's Edge. "Because, Commander, you spent so much time looking at what we could not do that you never bothered to learn what we could do." The Devourer fleet began to retreat, but the humans were not finished. They had spent 3 years planning for this battle, and they intended to win it completely. "All ships begin pursuit pattern Omega," Captain Minsu ordered. "We are not just defeating this enemy, we are making sure they cannot return with the knowledge they have gained." The alien officers on the bridge could only watch as human tactical genius turned certain defeat into overwhelming victory. Everything they thought they knew about warfare, about humans, and about their own capabilities was being proven wrong. "Captain Minsu," said the Hegemonian tactical officer quietly, "how long have you been planning this?" "Since the day we joined the coalition," Captain Minsu replied. "We knew that eventually there would come a time when strength and speed would not be enough. We knew that someday intelligence and adaptability would matter more than claws and armor. The battle was almost over, but the real shock was just beginning. The aliens were about to learn that they had been living with the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and they had never even noticed. The silence after the battle was more shocking than the explosions during it. Where thousands of Devourer ships had been attacking just hours before, now there was only empty space and floating debris. The enemy fleet had not just retreated, it had been completely destroyed. On the bridge of Harmony's Edge, alien officers stared at their tactical displays in disbelief. The coalition fleet that had been losing badly was now intact and victorious. Ships that should have been destroyed were still operational. The supply depot they had been ordered to protect was completely safe. Admiral Zorketh had recovered from his injuries and was looking at the battle reports with confusion. His crystal body flickered with different colors as he tried to process what had happened. "Captain Minsu," the Admiral said slowly, "I need you to explain how this victory was achieved." Captain Minsu stood calmly in front of the Admiral. He no longer looked like the humble human officer who had been dismissed just hours earlier. Now he looked like exactly what he was, a military commander who had just won an impossible battle. "We used tactical approaches that the enemy could not predict or adapt to," Captain Minsu replied. "We coordinated our forces in ways that maximized our advantages while minimizing our weaknesses. But humans do not have military advantages," said the Hegemonian tactical officer. "You are the weakest species in the coalition." Hyojin looked up from her computer station where she was still analyzing battle data. "We are physically weak, yes, but we have other strengths that you never noticed because you were too busy looking at our limitations." She pressed several buttons, and the main display showed detailed analysis of the battle. The data revealed tactical innovations that no alien military academy had ever taught. "Look at these coordination patterns," Hyojin continued. "Every other species in the coalition fights the same way their ancestors fought. You use the same formations, the same strategies, the same thinking. You are all very good at what you do, but you only know how to do one thing." Young Sik walked onto the bridge carrying equipment that looked like standard coalition gear but had been modified in ways that made alien engineers nervous just looking at it. "Humans adapt," Young Sik said simply. "Not just to new situations, but to new ways of thinking about situations. When you gave us basic equipment, we learned how to make it better. When you gave us simple jobs, we learned how to do them in complex ways." The alien officers were starting to understand something that frightened them. The humans had not just won this battle through luck or accident. They had been preparing for years to fight in ways that no other species could imagine. Commander Veltar entered the bridge, his assault mech armor still showing damage from the battle. The proud Valtaran warrior who had been mocking humans just hours before now looked at them with very different eyes. "I owe you an apology," Veltar said, walking directly to Kyung-ho. "All of us do." Kyung-ho looked at the Valtaran commander calmly. "You did not understand what you were looking at. That was not your fault. What do you mean?" Veltar asked. "You saw humans who seemed weak and assumed that meant we were useless," Kyung-ho explained. "But you never asked why the coalition kept humans around if we were really that weak. You never wondered what we were actually doing during all those battles where you thought we were hiding." So Young entered the bridge, her medical uniform showing that she had been busy treating wounded soldiers from many different species, but there had been surprisingly few casualties and most of the injuries were minor. "We were learning," So Young said, continuing Kyung-ho's explanation. "Every battle where you thought we were cowering in the back, we were actually studying enemy tactics, analyzing alien military thinking, and figuring out how to fight wars that had never been fought before." Daehyun joined the group, carrying a modified weapon that looked like nothing any alien had ever seen. "You thought our weakness was a disadvantage, but it was actually our greatest advantage." "How is weakness an advantage?" asked the confused Hegemonian tactical officer. "Because it forced us to think differently," Daehyun replied. "Strong species fight by overpowering their enemies. Fast species fight by outmaneuvering their enemies. Tough species fight by outlasting their enemies. But weak species have to fight by outsmarting their enemies." Jiwoo appeared with the data. tablet showing ship system modifications that violated dozens of safety regulations, but had worked perfectly during the battle. Every limitation you saw in humans was actually a strength you did not recognize. We cannot win fights with strength, so we learned to win them with intelligence. We cannot survive damage like other species, so we learned to avoid getting hit. We cannot use brute force, so we learned to use precision. Captain Minsu walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each alien officer. For 3 years, we have been quietly installing backup systems throughout the Coalition fleet. We have been studying every enemy the Coalition has faced. We have been developing tactics and technologies that no other species would ever think of. But why? Admiral Zorketh asked. Why did you do all this in secret? Because you would not have let us do it openly, Captain Minsu replied. You were all convinced that humans were too weak to contribute to military operations. If we had told you what we were planning, you would have stopped us. The Admiral's crystal body flickered with embarrassment. We underestimated you. Yes, you did, Captain Minsu agreed. But that was not entirely your fault. We wanted you to underestimate us. It made our real preparations easier. Young Sik smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. While you were all laughing about human weakness, we were learning about alien weaknesses. While you were comparing our physical abilities to yours, we were studying your tactical thinking and finding ways to improve it. The bridge became very quiet as the aliens realized what the humans were telling them. The species they had considered the weakest link in the Coalition was actually the most dangerous military force any of them had ever encountered. What happens now? Admiral Zorketh asked. Hyejin answered while still working at her computer. Now we use human tactical innovations to restructure Coalition military doctrine. What we accomplished today was just the beginning. Every battle from now on will be fought using strategies that combine alien strengths with human thinking. And if we refuse? Asked a chronic officer. Captain Minsu looked at him with calm eyes. Then you will lose the next war. And the one after that. The galaxy is becoming more dangerous, Admiral. Traditional military thinking is no longer sufficient for survival. So Young spoke up from where she was checking medical supplies. We are not trying to take over the Coalition military. We are trying to save it. Today proved that old ways of fighting will not work against new types of enemies. Kyung-ho walked to the communication station and brought up a display showing messages from throughout the Coalition fleet. Every ship in the fleet is requesting human advisors and tactical consultants. Word of what happened today is already spreading. The display showed dozens of requests from alien commanders who wanted to learn human military techniques. Species that had been mocking human weakness just hours before were now begging for human help. The balance of power in the galaxy has changed, Captain Minsu said simply. Not because humans are suddenly stronger, but because everyone else finally understands what human strength actually looks like. Commander Veltar looked around the bridge at the human officers who had saved his life and the lives of everyone in the fleet. We spent so much time laughing at what you could not do, we never bothered to learn what you could do. That was your mistake, Young Sik replied. Not ours. Admiral Zorketh stepped forward and formally saluted Captain Minsu. It was the first time in Coalition history that an alien admiral had saluted a human officer. Captain Minsu, I am requesting that you assume permanent tactical command of this fleet. The Coalition needs human strategic thinking to survive. Captain Minsu returned the salute. The Coalition will survive, Admiral, but it will never be the same. As the alien officers left the bridge to begin implementing human tactical improvements throughout their ships, Kyung-ho remained at his station. He was already planning for the next battle, the next enemy, the next impossible situation that would require human solutions. The species that everyone had underestimated was now the most important military force in the galaxy, and they had achieved this not by becoming stronger, but by proving that intelligence, patience, and creativity were more powerful than any physical advantage. The humans had finally shown the galaxy what they were really capable of, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again.